Christmas time. It is our official yearly Christmas deep dive. We do this once a year. We do it earlier and earlier so Todd can get it in while he's still not too busy to record a podcast. 30 years ago, we got the Santa Claus, and now we're talking about it.
Yeah, I don't know when we first saw this. It wasn't in the theater. We didn't watch movies in the theater as kids, but it was early.
This was in the theater.
I don't remember that.
I do. It's like this is like one of my first memories of actually going to the theater to see a movie.
I think the first movie I remember was The Lion King. I don't remember going to this.
I remember going to this.
Was I there?
I don't know. I thought it was the whole family.
I don't think I was.
I thought it was the whole
archive.
I saw this movie a lot because it was obviously it's a Christmas classic, and it's one that, like, I think it was TNT used to do just like a 24-hour loop on Christmas of a Christmas movie, and this was that one year, and I think I probably collectively watched it around like 10 or 12 times because I was dog sitting for that weekend, and I just have consumed this a lot, and I have there's secondhand just stuff that I have with my sister with this movie. Like, my banner is "You Couldn't," which is, of course, if you try to figure out what Charlie actually says in some scenes, you're never going to be able to figure it out. Like, he's like, "How could I have done this without you?" He does not say "you couldn't." He says "you couldn't," and that's how you spell it. Kunnin. You couldn't. And things like that. I feel like I know this movie backwards and forwards. Every scene, except for maybe the first couple scenes, I know so well. I was almost quoting it to myself when I was watching it the other day. It's a charming movie. Is it a great movie? I don't know. I mean, probably not. I mean, it's super corny and it's very 90s, but I mean, the cast all works really well together, and it's but it does have the kind of Christmas cheer that you get in some movies, but it does so that in a way that is just really, really just fun and light, and but it also, it's a Tim Allen movie, so I mean, there's a little bit of Home Improvement in there as well. It's just a movie I've seen a ton of times. I mean, we'll talk about it. It'll be fun. I'm just it's one of those things that just feels like it's been a part of me since I can remember ever watching movies.
Yeah, I think this is one of those few movies where all three of us have a certain nostalgia factor on this movie. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is the first memory I have of going to the movies to watch a movie was the Santa Claus. We might have seen Lion King in theaters too, but I distinctly remember like the parents being like, "We're going to go see the Santa Claus." And yeah, I haven't seen it much recently. Like, I don't have that full repeatability that Todd has on this one, but it's a classic. And watching it again, there were little things that I hadn't picked up on before, and that I picked up this time. And you know, there's always little things that are slipped in there. You go, "Oh, yeah, there's the joke for the adults that I didn't catch the first time around." And I was going to save this for conspiracy theory time, but this is basically the exact same plot as Liar Liar. And I thought about that a lot watching it this time.
It's many movies that it is derivative of, but Liar Liar.
Yes, but Liar Liar is
came after this movie, though.
True. I mean, so I think Liar Liar stole from this because, yeah, Jim Carrey was going to be able to do his Jim Carrey.
Every 90s divorced dad movie is the same, you know? That's one of my takeaways from this experience. Anyway, I'm sorry, Terry. They're all the same.
They are all very similar, but I think those two are...
Liar Liar is very, very similar, though.
Yeah.
I'd say Mrs. Doubtfire.
Zach. Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire is a good one, too.
Well, that's just because the actress is so similar to Sally Field. Like, I mean,
they're almost the same. I wrote those on my notes.
Same haircut.
The same haircut. Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah, right, so, you know... I said my gratitude to you guys earlier for 300, not choosing that for our 300th episode. I'm also grateful that you guys watched this movie growing up, because I watched a lot too. And, you know, I find that we don't all, for whatever reason, we both grew up in the Midwest around the same time. I mean, Terry is about 30 years older than us, but we all were about kids at the same age. And this was a movie that when you were a kid and you were 7 years old or whatever in 1994, like I was, you watched this movie. And I don't care if you went to a theater or you rented it on tape or you watched it on ABC in 1995. You watched this movie and you loved Tim Allen because he was a great comedic talent. I think this was the record for like the first and only time that the same guy had the number one movie, number one TV show, and number one book. I think it was the book where he says, "Don't stand too close to a naked guy." But he was like the big thing in 1994. He was like everyone loved Tim the Toolman Taylor and Buford Tools. And, we don't talk a lot about Tim Allen because really outside of Buzz Lightyear, he hasn't really done a whole lot. Except for, I think, occasionally makes some Fox News appearances, and he's on that TV show that he tried to, that's on like the Hallmark channel at 9:30 every night. Last Man Standing.
He's got a new one now too that I just saw.
Well, I mean, he has a built-in audience. I know. Like Last Man Standing was huge. Like I know a lot of people that watched that. And I never saw an episode of it, but I mean, I know that like people that loved Home Improvement like gravitated toward that immediately. Yeah.
Shifting Gears is his new show that's going to be coming out. Tim Allen and Kat Dennings.
I like that.
And Sean William Scott.
The Santa Claus. Yeah, I mean, this is a movie that I've probably seen, I would say, in somewhere between 25 and 35 times. Now, I don't always make it through the whole movie, but okay, so you wouldn't think this exactly to be a Zach movie, all right? It doesn't really have the moniker of a Zach movie. Here's what it does have that I like. I like misery. I like stupid too. You can play that soundbite, but I especially like characters who are like miserable, okay, and cynical and acerbic.
I love stupid.
Yeah, this movie has plenty of silly and stupid, but it also has a very witty, angsty, cranky Tim Allen, and I am here for that. Okay, now this was a seminal movie for me because we all watched it together. I watched it with my friends. All right. My friends liked the stuff with Santa Claus and the North Pole. I like the stuff with Tim Allen at Denny's, okay? I like the stuff where he was ordering the Caesar salad and the hot fudge sundae and the creme brulee. I like the stuff when he was making fun of Neil's sweaters. I didn't give a shit about the North Pole. And so for me, this was a seminal movie because I didn't really respond to the whole Disney magic bullshit, all right? I didn't care about that. I liked that Tim Allen was grumpy and miserable and always was busting Judd Reinhold's balls. That shit was funny, okay? And that shit actually still holds up, I think, quite nicely in this movie. This should be an R-rated movie. Tim Allen is hilarious in this movie. I'm hoping that there's maybe a Bob Saget-esque R-rated director's cut of outtakes from this movie because there's some great stuff in here. So I like Tim Allen in this movie. I love the Denny's scene. The North Pole stuff I kind of skipped through. I got to be honest. I mean, when you got the 8-year-old kids who are wearing elf ears, and that's what you're telling me an elf is. I mean, come on. I don't really care. The bad CGI reindeer I don't care about. I noticed some odd parallels of this movie to Anatomy of a Fall, which is also about a father figure who falls off the roof. And then the whole movie is about, was he pushed off the roof, or was this the figment of a child's imagination? Like, there's some odd parallels to Anatomy of a Fall. It also made me think this movie, okay, so let's say that this movie in 1994 is directed by like a Michael Haneke or something, and it's made in Europe. Then none of the North Pole scenes happen. And the whole movie is about a kid who claims to have seen Santa Claus and a father who won't refute it. I mean, I'm here for that. That's a more interesting movie. Screw the North Pole scenes. Anyway, I like this movie. It's a fun holiday classic. I'm just glad that we have something we can talk about because the last couple of Christmas deep dives, I don't know if I was there for. I can't remember what last year was, but like I know there was one that I was like, I never grew up with this movie. I never grew up. Yeah, well, I didn't grow up with Die Hard the way you guys did. I mean, I love Die Hard; it's a great movie. But this movie I actually saw when I was 7 years old. The big one to me is Elf. I didn't see Elf until like 2 years ago. Okay, I never grew up with Elf, so
yeah,
I'm still fresh.
I saw Elf late also.
So that's why we never deep dove it, along with why we're not deep diving 300. See, this is why we're a team. This is very good. Both of you, where do you have this on your 94 list? This is a question I was wondering about. Because, this is the thing. It's nostalgia. We like nostalgia because we're of a certain age and a certain disposition. And nostalgia means something, I think.
I have it number 51 out of 78.
I have it out of 45. I have it number 20.
Wow, you guys have seen more 94 movies than I have. I have it number 29, which is shocking. I don't actually think it's that good of a movie. Oh, out of 44 42. I don't think it's that good of a movie. I don't know why I have it that high. So, Todd, would you say that this is the Christmas movie you've watched the most?
Probably not. I mean, I would say Home Alone 2. I would say is number one.
The Home Alones are interesting. Yeah.
Did you guys see any of the Santa Claus
and
sequels?
Santa Claus and Home Alone, I would say.
Who would Nicolas Cage play?
In Fast Times, he was Brad's bud, so here he's Neil's bud. Judge Reinhold's bud.
There you go. I said Peter Boyle. He could be that character pretty easily.
That's such a missed opportunity. I mean, yes, today he would probably be Peter Boyle. But can you imagine him as the Santa Claus? I mean, that would have been tremendous. And actually, you could make the case that he probably could have played this role starting in 1988 and done it through 2013. That's a large window for him to have potentially played this role. And I think he would have been absolutely tremendous in it. What the hell was he doing? 94 was like a low point for him, right? I mean, he was in like Trouble in Paradise. He wasn't doing anything back then. This should have been a real easy call for Nick Cage. To guarding Tess, I mean, come on, this would have been a much better role.
Well, he was in. That's when he had a Red Rock West too. I mean, he had a big year, right?
I guess missed opportunity.
Filming, leaving Las Vegas. Yeah. Who would 90s Giamatti play?
Falling Santa.
Which one?
Falling Santa.
That's pretty good. That's hard to top.
I said he'd be the prison guard. Like I could say, you're the Calvin kid.
Yeah. What was his actual?
I had a lot of thoughts about. He's desk sergeant.
Yeah, desk sergeant. Yeah.
I'll leave that for later because I had some thoughts about him. No, Todd's right. Todd's right. Absolutely, he would have been the Santa falling off the roof. The only problem with it is that he wouldn't have been holding a camera. But he could have also. How about Todd? He could have been the second place would be he could have been the FedEx guy. I think I could see him maybe delivering those packages.
Yeah, that's not a bad call. I want to know what the falling Santa was actually doing at the chimney. Like he didn't have his bag on him. Like he must have already gone in the house, right? So why was he just standing by the chimney? And what was he doing there?
So I always assumed that this Santa Claus was because I had the exact same thought as you. Listen, this guy's probably been doing this shit for 30 years at least. That seemed like a very rookie mistake to make. Being surprised at someone acknowledging his presence. Is it possible that this Santa Claus wanted out? Was he looking for a way because he was done? Like he just wanted to commit suicide and he was done with the job.
He was still alive too because he waved.
I think this was an intentional act. What if we lived in a world where if the people that we kill, like Scott Calvin killed Santa Claus, and what would happen if you took their job? Like if Lee Harvey Oswald killed John F. Kennedy and he became president. Like, I don't know any other situation that this could happen in except for Santa Claus. It's a very interesting moral quandary. That's why this should have been a European film.
Let's do highest war performance. I'm going to go first. I have David Krumholtz down as the highest war. To get a 16-year-old kid that's that cranky, like he's always been Bernard because of this. I couldn't see anybody else pulling it off. He's 16 going on 35. Like he could have been his role in Oppenheimer immediately following the Santa Claus in 1994. Just because he's already a curmudgeon and he's still a kid. So
are we on a coffee break?
Well, then I guess the break is over.
That's a terrible pick, Terry, because very clearly, and I should have done this in my recasting, he could have been played by Ryder Strong or anybody on the ABC network in 1994.
No one could have brought that kind of energy.
Older brother from Home Improvement, the kid that dates Darlene and Roseanne. Anybody on ABC could have played Bernard.
Okay,
maybe Brian would not have been Bernard.
Zachary Pye Bryan. Worse career than
from Tokyo Drift.
From Tokyo Drift, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot in this movie. I know Zach's not gonna say it, so I'm gonna say Tim Allen. He's one of those people that Tim Allen's role is always Tim Allen's role. Like, I mean, I think that way about Buzz Lightyear. I think that way about Home Improvement. I think that way about this movie. I can't picture anybody else doing it the way Tim Allen does it, because of his cadence, because of his posture, because of everything that Tim Allen brings to a role. It becomes a Tim Allen role.
Yeah, in an era where movies were sold by the stars in them, this was the Tim Allen movie, the Tim Allen Christmas movie, and everyone went and saw it because it was that.
Actually, I'll go, but for the sake of the podcast, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'll go with Judge Reinhold. Really funny in this movie. Anyway, Judge Reinhold. Yeah. Now we want to talk about wasted careers. Judge Reinhold could have made an entire career of playing characters like this.
But Cary Elwes stole his thunder.
All right. Speaking of Cary Elwes, the worst performance of the movie, Todd.
Well, here we go. This is one of the most obvious worst performances. This has to be the most obvious worst performance in the history of our deep dives. So take it away, Todd. Do us all well.
I agree, but I think we're talking about different people.
I have Tony Crollo as the coffee cop.
Oh my god!
Who is he's the cop that they fly over and he spills his coffee on his vest. I do think the cops in this movie are horribly acted, especially that guy, because he doesn't look like he is in the right scene. He doesn't even react to anything. He spills his coffee and that's it. And he just like stares at them. That can't
Doesn't he kind of look like Michael Imperioli?
A little bit.
Yeah,
I noticed
he's got the eyebrows. Tony Crollo as the coffee cop. I think he's the worst performance.
Zach, worst performance.
Thank you, Todd, for absolutely butchering that. It was wonderful to listen to. The kid in this movie is the worst kid in movie history, right? I mean, there's no parallel to it. In fact, this kid is
Eric
so
Lloyd?
bad.
I had him in highest war. He's my number 2 choice.
This kid is so bad in this movie that I actually thought about ranking him on the highest war performance, because whenever I return to this movie, I am just reminded of what a horrible kid this is. He is
so you say
annoying.
You couldn't, right? You couldn't.
You couldn't.
You're right. His delivery is terrible. He's obviously reading off of some teleprompter offset. He's so whiny, and you just want to just slap him. I mean, come on, Todd, you hate movie kids. This was a home run for you. Anyway.
No,
this kid,
not movies I grew up with that I like the kid.
And there were so many good movie kids in this era. Like imagine like a young Brad Renfro. He would have been amazing in this role, or like a young Nick Stahl.
Of course, but he was in an Oscar-nominated movie that year.
I don't know if the director, aka the screenwriter of what else did he write? Another one of our deep dive. I can't remember.
Space Jam. Screenwriters wrote Space Jam.
Okay, well, whatever. I don't know if they envisioned in this movie that this kid would deliberately be this annoying. This movie is really the alternate meaning of this movie. It's about a mental illness, because this kid has a mental illness. The problem is it's the wrong mental illness. The mom thinks that he's delusional because he pretended that he saw Santa Claus. No. He has mental problems because he can't keep a secret. All right? It's like he has mental problems. They're the wrong mental problems, Mom. Okay? Wendy Crewson, I mean, you look great in a turtleneck, but try to understand your son a little better. He's telling the truth. He's just insanely incapable of keeping a secret. And that's the problem with it.
Even a $5 contract, too.
$5, which was, by the way, never delivered. And then how about, okay, so we go along in this movie. He's just a clinically incapable kid of shutting the hell up about his dad's real occupation. I mean, let's be honest. Walter White would have slapped the shit out of this kid. Like he's trying to keep a secret, incapable of doing it. So then he gets the $5 bribe, keeps the secret for everyone he talks to until he meets the judge. All right, the judge, and he spills the whole beat. Now, in a couple weeks, we're going to have a power ranking of scenes that were never seen in the movies. I want to see the scene where he tells the judge about everything. I think he folded very quickly. I think that judge said, "Tell me what your dad does," and he didn't give 2 shits about the $5 and said, "My dad is Santa Claus," like he was saying 3 months earlier. Folded under pressure, total asshole of a kid. I mean, why would you even want this kid in your life, Santa?
Oh, my worst performance is your highest war, Judge Reinhold. Of course, it's to Zach first for the minor character triumvirate. Amazing Larry, the Charlie Duke, and the Matt Damon.
Minor character is Veronica. Now, I think I have a theory about Veronica. I think she's into it. I think she is like Laura Flynn Boyle in Happiness, and she's kind of into Philip Seymour Hoffman giving her the dirty
That's the
calls.
whole thing.
I think she likes Santa. She is into that shit, and I think she recognizes that he is going for the Santa look, and that is what she is into. Why? Now, this is maybe missed opportunity, maybe a sequel of the movie. In Santa Claus 2, does he ever call her up? I mean, Veronica and Scott Calvin make a great couple. I see it as like a sort of Adrian Lyne, Mickey Rourke type relationship, maybe some S&M involved and some fruit. That's the kind of movie I want to see. Anyway, I love Veronica. What's the next category?
The reason why she says "in your dreams, Slay Boy" is because he says flirty. That she's nice, and she's like, "No, I'm naughty." That's the whole point of the scene. That it's supposed she's supposed to be giving.
I never read it that way. That's fascinating.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, she's supposed to be naughty. That's what I'm saying. She's into it. She would be played by Debbie Mazar in my 1994 recasting, and she's just fun, you know. Charlie Taker, movie maker. I don't know. I don't really have a good one here.
All right, Matt Damon, what movie are you in?
Matt, I said Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle is what movie are you in, man? I was shocked. I'm always shocked. Now I've seen this movie a lot. I'm shocked that Peter Boyle is in it. This was clearly Everybody Loves Raymond, desperate for some of the paychecks. The Joe residuals were drying out, shall we say. Not doing a whole lot in his career. I don't know. This is the second straight Matt Damon, Peter Boyle movie we've had this year after Hardcore. I think we need a Boyle renaissance. I mean, he was great in everything he was in. Todd, do you have him nominated for Best Supporting Actor 01? He's got to be at least your top 10 Pinot Awards for that year. But he's pretty good in this movie as well. And I don't know what movie he's in, and I don't know why he's in this movie, but I'm here for it. In this movie, you're supposed to believe that Tim Allen can turn into Santa Claus. I have a harder time believing that Peter Boyle would ever order a pasta with tomatoes with very light oil on it.
I'm next. My Amazing Larry is I'm going with Ballet Girl.
In the classroom. That's a good one.
No. The first one to sit on his lap and ask for ballet slippers, played by Tabitha Lupin, who also is Julie Ubriaco from Look Who's Talking Now, which I just realized sitting here thinking about it.
Oh, the older sister.
No, the younger sister, the kid. Oh. Look Who's Talking Now. Like, there's the two kids.
Oh, It's a Hat.
That one.
Oh, man.
Her first film role was Look Who's Talking Now. Her second film role was the Santa Claus's Ballet Girl. I want some ballet slippers. And just sitting here thinking about it and thinking about that scene and that character, I'm like, she looks a lot like the Look Who's Talking Now girl. And I looked up, and sure enough, it is. So totally my Amazing Larry pick. My Charlie Duke Ticket Taker movie maker is Charlie, because he tells Scott to put the suit on. And my Matt Damon, what movie are you in, is definitely Stan Grossman.
I don't even really remember him in the movie. Who do you play again?
He's the detective. He's the guy who's like, his name is Scott Calvin. He thinks he's Santa Claus. This is who we're looking for. He's probably gonna be dressed as Santa. It's Stan Grossman.
All right, name Scott Calvin.
Oh yeah, and he's the one that interrogates him.
I don't know how you know and put that together, Zach. You really do only watch like half of your favorite movies.
Oh, I haven't seen the second half of Fargo in 7 years at least. I don't know what.
All right, Todd, remember it.
My Amazing Larry, it's Fireman O'Hara, probably. I mean,
that's a good one.
He's so funny.
Nothing is more painful.
We're so sorry. I think we can all agree we're sorry about your partner.
I mean, I would have watched more of that character. He should have popped that exact character should have popped up in like Billy Madison or something.
That is a very Sandler character. I agree.
There we go. Oh yeah, my Matt Damon, what movie are you in? It's Steve Kosaka and the rest of the Japanese businessmen that are at Denny's.
Thank you. Yes, I was hoping we'd talk about this. The Hatsutashi Christmas party.
yeah. The dad burned the turkey. Oh, okay. And my minor character caused the movie to happen. It's Falling Santa, of course.
I'm first on the tripod of depravity, the stickman, douchebag, and most punchable face. Stickman. I should have written down his name. It's probably in the castle somewhere, but I wouldn't recognize it. It's the Santa at the office party whose secretary is sitting on his lap.
Johnson's secretary sitting on.
I wrote that down.
Yeah, that's an obvious Stickman there. The Uncle Douchebag is definitely. I don't have the name written down, but the Panzer guy, the guy who's suggesting Santa. Yeah,
militaristic Santa.
And then the whole thing about like it takes a million pieces to put together, and then then it breaks 2 minutes later, and then you got to buy new parts. I thought that was the point. Like he's a douchebag.
Did you ever play with tanks as a child? I can't imagine that would have been very fun to play with tanks.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, sort of.
Santa
like,
and a
with
tank?
action figures and stuff. I don't know.
We were more like Power Ranger action figures and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, exactly. That's also why it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, we had like GI Joes and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
we had the Ninja Turtle van and a Batmobile. My most punchable face. I'm gonna go with Rose Suchak, who made the ladders, because it's a Rose Suchak ladder. If you look at like I always thought it was like a rose such a ladder, but no, it says this is the Rose Suchak ladder. And so Rose Suchak is a punchable face because her ladder punched Scott Calvin in the face. So
I think that was an example.
And that's again a bad line reading by the child actor. There's a ladder company. What? Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Spider Stickman is the elf in Rapping who's banging Judy. Because obviously they're dating now, apparently. After 1,200 years.
Good call.
The douchebag is the puppets Punch and Puppet Judy, who laugh at Scott for getting into his underwear in the bedroom. Just a douchey thing to do. You know. And most punchable face is the elf at the North Pole. This is what he's credited as, but it's the kid elf who raises the pole out of the ground, because he just sits there and he looks pissed that this ass clown just killed his Santa, and he's got that just punchable face on his grill. He's just like, yeah, I would punch that kid. So that's where the kids come in. The kids come in as punchable and shit. Not necessarily in worst performance, but
see, Todd just wants to punch kids in the face. That's really what it comes down to.
I don't think there's any Stickman in this movie, which is what I have respect for. I wouldn't call Neil a Stickman. I wouldn't call Santa a Stickman, even though Veronica is into it. I wouldn't call Bernard a Stickman. I wouldn't call anybody a Stickman.
What about Johnson at the office party with his secretary on his lap?
Yeah, okay.
Elf from Rapping who's banging Judy.
That's a good one too.
I don't know what you're talking about, Todd. It sounds very
like Scott talks to Judy and
he's like, she's like, it's sorry, I'm seeing somebody in Rapping.
Oh,
like, because he's like, you look really good for your age. Because she said she was 1,200 years old.
Very uncomfortable moment in this movie.
It was a deep cut. Todd had a deep cut.
It's like a Woody Allen scene or something. Douchebag. I went with the doctor. Now the doctor doesn't really seem that genuine. The doctor's a little bit of an asshole. You know, he kind of is talking about go. Actually, wait a second. I'm sorry, I wrote this down wrong. I'm going with Peter Boyle. Peter Boyle said, go see a doctor, go see a dietitian, just get some help. And then he goes back into the office. He doesn't really seem to care about the mental state. Did you notice that, Todd? When you're does Peter Boyle really care about this transformation that Tim Allen has gone through? He just seems
he just wanted to get him out of his unproductive meeting, but he also didn't give him his jacket back. Oh, like he loses his jacket.
Oh, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that.
That is a fascinating point. Okay, punchable face.
By the way, the doctor, I've seen 2 movies of his in the last 5 years. He was in Shirley, and he was also in Worth.
Punchable face. Let's go with I don't really have a good one, but I will say that when
Honestly, I agree.
When Tim Allen gets on the scale, and it says 192 pounds. Did you guys think what I thought? The first thing I thought was Adam Sandler getting on the scale in Uncut Gems, and he weighed 202 pounds. And I thought, Santa looks quite a bit fatter than Howard Ratman. I thought there must have been, maybe, I know we're getting into Ratner, we're getting into gripes and conspiracies here, but are you really telling me that Adam Sandler weighed 10 pounds more than Scott Calvin? I don't know if I totally believe that.
Maybe Tim Allen's really short. I don't know.
It's a possibility. And Adam Sandler's really tall.
That's not a bad call.
The Doctor is a bit of a douchebag, so we'll go with him for punchable face.
The best scene, Todd. What's the best scene?
Oh, I mean, there's quite a few really good ones. I'm gonna say Judy and Santa in the bedroom talking while Charlie's asleep, because that I guess that's where you sort of get that Scott opens up about like actually not understanding what he's seeing, and that he can't really get around this. And it does seem like a really sweet scene, and it kind of is pivotal to him understanding where he eventually ends up. It's a really good scene.
Best scene, Denny's, clearly. Denny's was hilarious. I mean, actually, it's not really that funny of a scene, but it's more funny to think about them going to Denny's, and the Hatsusashi Christmas party, and you get the divorced dads there. It was interesting watching this movie with my wife. All she kept talking about was how, and I agreed with her, that this is just how we deify divorced dads. The 90s in movies loved the divorced dad archetype because we love the divorced dad, especially when they have to dress up in clothing and pursue an alternate identity. And the mom is just a bitch who tells the kid to not believe in Santa. That was the world we lived in back in the 90s. I don't know what this has to do with the Denny's scene, but I like the Denny's scene a lot. I think it's funny, and I miss Denny's. Denny's was, I think, Terry, didn't we go to Denny's a few times? I feel like that was sometimes a Portland breakfast item.
They were always open.
Sometimes went to it was always open. Yeah, I miss it. You can't get. They don't make them like they used to.
My best scene, gosh, I'm trying to think of like when I think of this movie, what scene do I think of? Like the interrogation scene is awesome. That's a great one. That's not necessarily what I first think of. I'm thinking it's got to be something near the beginning, like the first house he goes down in, or not the first one, but the one with the girl he tells that he's lactose intolerant. Like that whole sequence is
he eats the celery like it's a cigar.
Go. I'm lactose intolerant. And then the payoff when he goes back and she puts out soy milk for him, like those two scenes together, that's what I'm gonna say is the best scene.
My other favorites are the lunch meeting, of course. The lunch meeting is awesome. A great scene.
Actually, the playing of the Jeopardy theme song as he's finishing the Sunday. In fact, he
didn't touch the salad either, by the way. It's just a pile of lettuce. You order Caesar with no dressing. You're pretty much ordering lettuce with a little bit of Parmesan cheese.
One of my MVPs from this movie is the two drum beats that play after Peter Boyle says, "Are you done?" And he takes another bite and it goes boom, boom after the Jeopardy theme song. And that was one of my MVPs.
It's like his heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, his heartbeat was Jingle Bells, right?
And I also really like when Bernard appears and he eats the sandwich out of a pita. Honestly, pita sandwiches are underrated. When was the last time you saw a pita bread? It's been a long time.
That's a good point. Yeah, that sandwich did look good.
Compelling point. I always agreed.
All right. What's your Regal quote?
Compact disc.
How do I look? Nice. That would have been a Regal quote. That would have been in the commercial.
I had my original banner, which was Santa rolling down the block in a Panzer.
I sure hope you've been good this year. Incoming!
Todd's right. That's the best scene. Armando Sante is the Regal line, but Todd's right though. That is the best scene in the movie. Is the corporate meetings. But when I was 7 years old, I also thought that was funny, and no one else gave a fuck. You know, like that was a great scene. That's a great business scene. He's insane. You know, watching the movie as an adult, that scene still clicks. It works. Like he's irrationally attached to the fact that the elves look too old, you know, and that Santa would never drive a Panzer, and that How dare they? That's a
Because
great
he spent
scene.
a whole
That scene would've-
lifetime in a night as Santa. He's like, no, there's no way. There's no way he's going anywhere without his sleigh.
that's like out of that. That's like a Tim Robinson bit or something. That's like an SNL sketch or something. Like that totally works today. That's funny.
My Regal quote is normally I sleep naked. I don't know if that would have actually gotten into the commercial, but
also the Regal quote of "Don't touch my daughter."
I think we can skip the if there were a sequel since there were 2 of them.
I wrote down Bernard. I don't remember what the sequel was about, but I don't think Bernard was necessarily.
He's in them. Flaws, outdated conspiracy theories, anything you got. All I had was the fact that this is Liar Liar.
Yeah.
Well, and Mrs. Doubtfire and Kramer versus Kramer and every other divorced dad movie.
But more Liar Liar. Like Judge Reinhold versus Carrie Elwes is like a real debate for corniest stepdad.
Well, outdated would be, I mean, the FedEx driver is bailed as mailman. Not really sure how that works. We definitely don't work for the post office. And plus
they all say Federal Express.
Yeah, it was still Federal Express, yes. But this was the 90s. They had bigger trucks. You didn't have to send 5 Econoline vans to one house. You probably could have fitted in maybe a truck and a half.
And that's coming from someone who works in the warehouse.
Inside information.
I also had just another underrated line. One of my favorites is reindeer on the roof. He goes, it's like he's going back through it. It's like reindeer on the roof. That is going to be hard to explain.
I like that too. Because he's like, well, this explains this. It's reindeer on the roof.
when he says, yeah, Neil, he actually listens to me. And he's like, yeah, and he charges you for it. And then it goes to the next. It's like little jabs like that. Neil wasn't even in the scene, but it's still super funny.
My underrated line came from the elf flying squad when he says, "We find that we get around a lot faster when we fly." Yeah, no shit. I bet you do get around a lot faster when you fly. I don't think that's
1,200 years to figure that out.
My most punchable face was almost the leader of the elves. Elves with attitude. Like
that's your Simba most punchable face douchebag.
Yeah,
exactly. Little snot-nosed kid.
I wanted to add a couple of things, just things that I haven't mentioned yet. What's the deal with the weird? I sound like Seinfeld here. What's the deal with the weird Celine Dion music when they get to the North Pole? Like, we got, that moment when like the voice comes on and she's singing the song, and that's when they enter the code thing. It's a strange musical interlude where nothing happens for like 3 minutes. I don't know if I get it. I wrote down also, what's the deal with trains as a toy? Now, I never found trains that interesting as a toy. There's many trains at the North Pole, but trains to me were always loud. They were obnoxious because they had steam coming out of them. And frankly, they were on the track. They were never unpredictable. They would just go around in a circle. Okay, to me, that would be a toy that would be very uninteresting after about 30 seconds. Buses were much more interesting. Buses, you could go really wherever, and you could do, there's a variety of shapes and sizes and colors, and you could go wherever. Anyway, I never understood trains as a toy. I also wrote down, there's some real daddy's home vibes from this movie, which almost made me want to recast Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell in this movie as Scott and Dr. Miller, respectively. And speaking of Dr. Miller, maybe you get this, Todd. Anytime when you hear the words Dr. Miller, at least here's what I think of. I think of season 4 of Mad Men, when Don was dating Dr. Miller, someone named Dr. Miller, and his secretary at the time was Miss Blankenship. Now, first of all, Miss Blankenship was the best character on Mad Men. Okay, no question. But anytime that Dr. Miller called, she would answer and say, "Dr. Miller on the line," and that was hilarious.
LVP MVP time. I'll go first. My LVP is Denny's. How do you run out of stuff on Christmas? Like,
I know nobody's there.
Yeah, and nobody's there. We're all out. No, you're not all out. You're Denny's. Come on now. My MVP is the makeup department, because I mean, this is 30 years ago. The makeup on Scott Calvin on Santa is pretty awesome. Like the fat suit looks great, even when you have to show him like with his shirt off at the doctor. It like there's some good makeup going on here. Like this should have gotten like a Norbit level like Oscar nomination for the makeup work. So
I like it.
Norbit.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Todd.
My LVP is Comet's gift to Santa, which is just a rope. Not really explained how he's supposed to use it. So he's thinking you have to tie the rope to the chimney every time you go down. That seems like a lot of work. And even so, like, what happens if he falls? He's just going to be hanging there? The reindeer ain't going to help him. He's going to be hanging from a roof, from a rope, and he's going to be there.
Because he's got a direct line to Judy.
Yes, eventually, yes. But it's still it's not very practical. I think that gift does not make a whole lot of sense. But the gesture is there, Comet. And my MVP is Renee Rousselot, who is the casting director, because of the casting of the kids, which I think is amazing in this. She also cast The Mighty Ducks, Jungle the Jungle, and Matilda. Like, these are like seminal 90s movies with great kid actors, and I think the Santa Claus is one of them, including the guy who played Charlie. So Renee Rousselot, MVP of the Santa Claus.
Well, my MVP of the movie is clearly Wendy Crewson, and I want to talk a little bit about the scene that she's in when she interrupts the soccer game with Neil walking onto the field.
Walks straight through the field.
I thought that was some very Seth energy from Superbad. You know, who can interrupt a soccer game? That's a Mount Rushmore of interrupting a soccer game, if you ask me.
And she took out a starting player at the very beginning of the game.
That's a scene I would say that was ahead of its time. Like at the time, it's like, what? You don't take him out of the game, and then now you're like, okay, that totally tracks. Yeah, just walk out. Like I now have kids in kids sports. Like, yeah, that would make sense if someone just walked out and grabbed their kid and like, we're done, we're leaving.
Yeah, send in Lucas talking girl. She'll cover.
Yeah, just put in ballet girl. It's a hat.
I also had ZZ Top as a real MVP candidate. Give Me All Your Lovin', great musical number, randomly put in at about the 112 minute of this movie. It's a nice wake me up, because by that point I'm a little bit tapped out of this movie. I'm a little ready to be done with it. But we get the ZZ Top in there. Great job. I like the choreography too with the arms. It's all in the wrists. My LVP candidates are Laura's parents. Literally, all she asked for was a fucking mystery date game. Okay, how difficult is that to get? Are you kidding me? Now Neil's a little different, because putting a Oscar Mayer Wiener whistle, giving that to a 3-year-old, I can imagine that would get on your nerves very quickly, almost more than Eric Lloyd getting on your nerves as a child actor. But mystery date, come on.
That could also be considered a choking hazard for a 3-year-old.
That's true too. But Laura's parents really also. They could be the Moneymaker, Chris Moneymaker, creator of the movie, why the movie happened, because she doesn't like Christmas anymore. She lost the Christmas spirit when she wasn't delivered Mystery Date. And I've always been intrigued by Mystery Date as a game. I've never played it before. I would play it though, as a result of Laura wanting it. Okay, my quote of the day comes from Tim Allen in this movie, and it's when he's on the roof. And he's talking about the reindeer, and he says, the reindeer, you don't know where they've all been. They look like they have key lime disease. I think he meant key lime pie. But I think he was trying to combine key lime pie with Lyme disease. And I like it. That to me is also it's a nice underrated line. It's like, that's the kind of line you'd get in the 90s. No writer is intelligent enough to come up with a line like that today, but it works and it's very funny. And why didn't he order key lime pie at the business meeting? I don't know, but I like it. It's very fun. There's a Y and there's an I. They're mixed matched, but it works.
Well, it's a good thing he didn't order it at Denny's, because I have a feeling they were out.
We're out.
Yeah. My quote comes from my best scene, the second part of my best scene. And it's from the little girl sleeping on the chair. and the quote is, "You're fatter this year." And the reason I quote this is because watching this movie with my kids, my daughter, who just says whatever is on her mind, and she was when we were watching the doctor scene, I think is when it was.
Hi, Todd.
Yeah, that's her.
How you doing?
Yeah, so we were watching the doctor scene, and like he lifts up his shirt to check, and she goes, "He's really fat now, Dad. He's even fatter than you." And I'm like, thanks, Fiona. Thanks.
That's a good one.
You're fatter this year. Like that would have been what my daughter would have said.
See you next Christmas.
Yes, and we will see you next Christmas with our next Christmas deep dive. But actually, we'll see you next week